What if the next war America faces does not stay overseas? What if the battlefield is not just a desert, a naval corridor, or a distant military base, but your gas station, your grocery bill, your power grid, and the political future of the United States itself? That is what makes a war with Iran so dangerous. It is not simply about missiles, fighter jets, or military headlines. It is about how one conflict in a critical region could send shockwaves through the American economy, American security, and the daily lives of millions of citizens. Before we begin, if you believe understanding the threats that shape America's future is part of being an informed patriot, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Channels like this exist for people who care about where this country has been, where it is going, and what history can teach us before it is too late. And as you watch, ask yourself one question. If the United States is pulled deeper into conflict, what price should America be willing to pay, and what price is simply too high? Because this is the truth few people want to say out loud. Wars in the modern world do not stay neatly contained. They spread through shipping lanes, through computer networks, through elections, through public trust, and through the wallets of ordinary families. And when the United States collides with a country as strategically placed and deeply networked as Iran, the consequences do not stop at the front line. They begin there. So today, we are breaking down 5 shocking consequences of a US-Iran war that could shake America in ways many people still do not fully understand. First, America could feel the war first at the gas pump, not on the battlefield. One of the biggest dangers in any war involving Iran is geography. Iran sits beside the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important energy choke points on Earth. Huge volumes of the world's oil and a significant share of global liquefied natural gas move through that narrow passage. If military action disrupts traffic there, even temporarily, the consequences ripple outward fast. Shipping costs rise, energy prices jump, markets panic, and suddenly a conflict thousands of miles away shows up in American life through higher fuel costs, more expensive goods, and fresh inflation pressure. That is the part many viewers overlook. America does not need to import most of its oil directly from Iran to feel the impact. Global energy markets are interconnected. When one of the world's most vital choke points is threatened, the entire pricing structure reacts. In other words, a missile launched in the Persian Gulf can hit an American household budget without ever crossing the Atlantic. That is how modern power works. And that is why a regional war can become an economic shock inside the United States almost overnight. Second, US troops and bases across the region could become immediate targets. A war with Iran would not be a simple one-front conflict. Iran has long relied on missiles, drones, naval harassment, and allied armed groups across the region to raise the cost of confrontation for the United States and its partners. That means American forces stationed at bases in the Middle East could face retaliation quickly, even if Washington believed it was launching a limited operation. Iran's strategy has repeatedly centered on signaling strength, imposing costs, and proving that any attack against it can produce consequences beyond its own borders. And that matters politically inside America. Every time US personnel come under fire, every time another base is struck, every time another military family sees the cost of escalation become personal, public opinion can shift. What begins as a show of resolve can turn into a debate over whether the country is entering another drawn-out regional conflict. Americans have seen that pattern before. They know that wars often begin with promises of control and end with years of uncertainty. Now pause here and comment below. Do you think America should respond with overwhelming force if US bases are attacked, or should Washington avoid a larger war even after a direct hit? I want to hear what you think, because this is exactly the kind of line that divides the country in moments of crisis. Third, the cyber front could bring the war into American infrastructure. Not every strike would come with sirens and smoke. Some of the most unsettling consequences of a US-Iran war could come through keyboards, malware, compromised industrial systems, and targeted disruption of critical infrastructure. US agencies have repeatedly warned about Iranian cyber activity and the potential targeting of vulnerable American networks, especially in moments of tension. That means the real danger is not only on the battlefield, but inside systems most people barely think about until they stop working. Utilities, transportation, industrial control systems, and other essential networks that keep daily life functioning. That kind of threat changes how a war feels. Suddenly, the conflict is not just something people watch on television at night. It becomes something they experience in interruptions, warnings, outages, confusion, and fear. A cyber campaign does not need to destroy an entire system to shake public confidence. It only needs to prove that America is reachable. And once that idea settles into the national mind, the psychological effect can be as powerful as the physical damage. Fourth, the war could deepen division inside the United States instead of uniting it. Many Americans assume that war automatically produces national unity. Sometimes it does, at least briefly. But in a polarized age, conflict can also intensify every existing fault line. Was the war necessary? Was it avoidable? Who miscalculated? Who benefits politically? Who pays for it? Those questions do not wait until peace returns. They begin immediately. And in a deeply divided society, every military decision can become fuel for a domestic battle over leadership, credibility, and the meaning of national strength. This is where the consequences become bigger than foreign policy. A war with Iran could reshape election debates, congressional battles, media narratives, and public trust in government institutions. Some Americans would see escalation as necessary deterrence. Others would see it as another costly entanglement. Some would demand total victory. Others would demand immediate restraint. And when a nation cannot even agree on what success looks like, every setback becomes politically explosive. In that sense, the war would not just test America's weapons, it would test America's cohesion. Fifth, America could win militarily and still emerge weaker strategically. This may be the most shocking consequence of all. The United States could outperform Iran in conventional military terms and still suffer a strategic loss. That sounds impossible at first. But history is full of examples where battlefield superiority did not automatically create long-term stability, public confidence, or geopolitical advantage. Even analysts assessing recent conflict dynamics have noted that while Iran can suffer heavy military losses, it can still raise the cost of war for the United States and its allies through regional disruption, attacks on partners, and sustained pressure outside conventional combat. That is the trap great powers fear most. You can destroy targets, sink ships, intercept missiles, and still walk away with higher energy prices, a more volatile region, greater pressure on allies, fresh cyber vulnerabilities, and a divided public at home. A war like that does not need to end in military defeat to leave a strategic scar. It only needs to prove that even the strongest nation in the world cannot enter a conflict of this scale without absorbing consequences that linger long after the shooting stops. So when people ask what a US-NAR war would mean for America, the real answer is this. It could mean inflation without warning, retaliation without borders, cyber pressure without visibility, political division without relief, and a military victory that still feels like a national burden. That is what makes this conflict so dangerous. It does not move in one direction. It expands in many directions at once. In the end, the most important thing to understand is that the consequences of a war with Iran would not be measured only by maps, missile counts, or airstrikes. They would be measured by whether Americans feel less secure, less stable, and less confident about the future of their country. Real strength is not just the ability to strike, it is the ability to foresee the chain reaction that follows. And if history teaches us anything, it is that the biggest costs of war are often the ones people fail to imagine at the beginning. If you care about America enough to study the forces that could shape its future, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Patriotism is not blind cheering. It is paying attention. It is asking hard questions. It is refusing to look away when the stakes are this high. And before you go, leave your answer in the comments. Would a wider war with Iran make America stronger through deterrence, or weaker through overextension? That question may define not only this crisis, but the next chapter of American power itself.